He was a go-to geology professor whenever there was an earthquake felt in the North Country. Frank Revetta has passed away at the age of 96. Revetta taught at SUNY Potsdam for 50 years, according to his obituary, calling teaching his obsession, and taught undergrads, graduates, grade schoolers, retirees, prisoners in earth science, geology, and astronomy. The write-up says that he ran and operated seismology stations across the North Country and became known locally as the Earthquake Man. Many times, Frank was on Channel 7 describing what he just felt and why we should care. Calling hours are Friday, and Potsdam burial is set for Saturday.